Well, by now, you've probably heard about the keto diet, a higher fat, low carb way of eating designed to keep your body burning its own fat as fuel. There are, of course, naysayers. There are also millions who now swear by it. Dr. David Harper is a health educator and cancer researcher. He's teamed up with his wife, journalist Dale Brewery, for their new book. It's called Bio Diet. Now, it lays out the science behind ketosis and promises that breaking our carb addiction will make us live longer and healthier. We're pleased to welcome them both to Calgary. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
By way of
Thanks
Vancouver, I already warned you I'm going to ask you what you had for breakfast this morning.
An unusual breakfast for us.
Well, we had bacon and eggs, but one of the criticisms of keto diets, it's just bacon and eggs. We just eat that occasionally, but we were at a friend's house and that's what they served us.
To be fair, they made us breakfast.
They
so that's what we had.
You wouldn't turn it down.
No.
Just be grateful it wasn't croissants or a big mountain of toast, right?
They know better.
They know better. Okay, so for decades we've been told to avoid high-fat foods or fatty foods in general, that they're bad for us, they'll give us a heart attack. But the keto diet, ketosis, the premise of ketosis turns that on its head. Can you just lay it out very basically for us what the premise of ketosis and keto eating is?
Sure, we call it, this is a well-formulated ketogenic diet, which means it provides full nutrition. But really what we're doing is swapping out the high carb for high fat. And it turns out those high carbs are mostly starch and sugars, and they lead to insulin resistance, diabetes, inflammation. Whereas the high fat diet actually helps you switch your metabolism so you burn fats, and so you're burning that mid-abdominal fat, which really creates a lot of health problems.
That's the process of ketosis, right? When we talk about ketosis, that's the fat burning process.
That's right.
And we talk, people measure, use a strip to test their urine for the ketones and all that. Do you go that far?
Oh, you can if you want to. Actually, if you follow our guidelines, you don't really need to. You can really just kind of watch your waistline, and that'll tell you if you're in nutritional ketosis or not.
Dale, how much fat are we talking about? Like, what are the macros? How do you break it down in a day?
Well, I think for, you mean how much fat do we eat?
Yeah, how much should we, what's your percentages of what you're eating in a day under your plan?
Well, significantly different from what the Canadian Food Guide offers, for example, which is about, what was the percentage?
Well, typically the Canadian Food Guide says about 60% of your calories from carbohydrate, whereas we say 60 to 70% of your calories from fat. From good fats, like from avocado and olive oil, and also some animal fats, saturated fats.
And you don't need to eat meat to be on a ketogenic diet.
No, you can be vegetarian, you can be vegan.
Yeah. So where would you, if somebody was vegetarian and they wanted to follow the keto way, especially your keto way, where are they getting their proteins from?
Well, the cover of the book is the perfect example is an egg. You know, an egg is kind of nature's perfect food, so that's one good example. But there's lots of protein. We eat a lot of vegetables. We just don't eat a lot of starchy vegetables, and we don't eat anything with sugar.
So that means no fruit, right? Or very little fruit.
Berries.
Because people don't understand, when you say sugar, you don't mean the box or bag or bowl of white stuff. You mean sugars as in a carbohydrate.
Right, so if it tastes sweet, don't eat it.
And even if it doesn't taste sweet, if it's something made with processed flours, for example, your body turns that material to sugar in the blood. So it's whether you're eating sugar or you're consuming something that your body transforms into sugar, it's pretty much the same thing.
Okay, so I imagine you don't eat any bread.
Nope.
I'm just going to go down the list. Bread. Rice.
We make our own bread, seeds and nuts.
Seeds and nuts, so it's not milled flours.
That's correct.
Rice?
No rice.
No. Potatoes?
No.
No pasta.
No pasta, right?
And I'm part Italian too, right? So that's
hard.
pretty hard.
Let me ask about cardiovascular health, because the latest criticism of this way of eating is that all these fats, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in 20 or 30 years, if millions of people follow a keto way of eating, they will eventually get heart disease. What do you say?
Well, it's a very good question, Jocelyn. And you know, if you look for the evidence that saturated fats, which come from animal and plant products, that they cause cardiovascular disease, actually there is no scientific evidence, no robust scientific evidence to support that. And in fact, I would argue it's the high sugar, high carbohydrate diet that makes us inflamed, and that's at the root cause of cardiovascular disease. So in fact, the ketogenic diet reverses all of the biomarkers that would indicate you'd be at a higher predisposition for cardiovascular disease and improves your health.
And we have 40 years of anecdotal evidence that a high carbohydrate diet hasn't worked, which is the reason that we've ended up with millions of people who are obese and suffering from chronic disease.
You both started this in 2012, so it's been, what, 7 years now?
Yes. Yeah.
Were you overweight before? Not to be indelicate, but what's happened to you since? How has it changed you?
I figured it was the inevitability of getting old.
Right.
And so it was just everybody talks about the kind of middle-age spread. And there was a part of me that believed that was true because it's easier, and another part of me that said, no, I don't want to go down this road.
And you don't have to. You don't have to get heavy and inflamed and in pain and get old and get disease. You can actually prevent all of that.
But for me, it was about 10 pounds, and it was all here, and that's where. That's the danger sign, right? That's what you need to be paying attention to, what shows up here.
Do you ever cheat?
Nope, I don't like cheating.
You don't ever cheat?
I have a Guinness on my birthday every year, but I've actually tested that in the lab and it doesnesn't knock me out of ketosis.
But no birthday cake?
No birthday cake. You know what? But I don't crave that stuff anymore. What I crave is like grass-fed butter.
Yeah.
Right.
double cream
brie or something like that.
It all sounds pretty good when you put it that way.
It's pretty tasty because that's where the flavor is.
That's where the
fat.
flavor is.
Yeah.
Well, there is an insane amount of science in this book.
Yes.
Let me just put it to you that way. So if you're interested in checking it out, you can read about it. It's Bio Diet. And of course, this book contains a lot of scientific evidence as well for this way of eating. Check it out yourself. biodiet.org is the website. And of course, Dale and David both are on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Ian.